Because of the rollout of Quadeca's newest album, I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, and the fact that his first single off that album drops today, I thought it would only be fitting to post a tutorial today on how to make an evil Quadeca type beat. And the beat that we'll be going over sounds a little something like this. Alright, so as you can tell from there being multiple previews of this beat, it is stupid complex. And because of that, this tutorial is probably going to be pretty long, so buckle up and let's just get right to it. Alright, so the way I'm going to break down this tutorial is I'm just going to go 8 bars by 8 bars by 8 bars by 8 bars, and then just progress throughout the entire beat until I get to the end. So for this first 8 bars, I have this very, very faint choir sound to open up the beat. And then for that intro, I also have a couple automation clips automating the reverb, the stereo separation, as well as the volume. For the intro, I'm having to go from mono to normal stereo separation to kind of make it really, really thin and open up once the drop hits. So with that being said, let's move into the next 8 bars. First thing I lay down is this kind of electric guitar kind of sound from Omnisphere, and it sounds like this. And this sound is just laying down the chord progression that is going to be the foundation for all the other melodies in this beat. Next thing I laid down is another electric guitar kind of sound, and it's just playing those root notes as well as the 5th of the chords. Next I have those vocals yet again, just playing without any of those added effects. And the last melodic aspect for the intro is this sub bass. It doesn't really sound like much, but in tandem with the beat, it just provides that super rumbly low end. And all I have in terms of non-melodic sounds for this intro are just a couple of impacts, risers, and whooshes. Oh, I forgot, I also threw in this percussion loop from Cymatics. So with that being said, this is what the intro sounds like. Alright, so now let's move into this first chorus. The only new melodic aspect that I throw in is this kind of lead sound from Omnisphere, but this melodic phrase is super, super important to the beat. You may notice in certain movie soundtracks, there's a certain sound that plays throughout almost every single song in the soundtrack. Like for example, this sound is super identifiable in the Black Panther soundtrack. So with that being said, this is the melody that it's playing. And you will be seeing this melody a lot more in different variations later on in the beat. I wanted this to kind of give off a Candles on Fire kind of vibe, so I laid down a 4 on the floor kick pattern. In tandem with that, I also threw down a couple of claps. And I also threw down this hi-hat playing a tribal kind of pattern. Also, yet again, to add to that kind of tribal feel, I threw down this stomp loop. And then I also threw down various voxes. Now, I know that seemed like a lot, and that's because it is. Quadeca's beats are insanely complicated, and they take a long time to make. So if you really want to sit down and make a Quadeca type beat, I suggest you have a lot of time on your hands. Because judging by the project info, this beat took me 3 hours and 30 minutes to make, which is kind of a lot. So with that being said, this is what the first chorus sounds like. Alright, so after that chorus, the beat just goes into a verse, which I really don't need to go over because it basically just consists of everything we discussed, just arranged in a different way. But what I do want to go over is this bridge into the next chorus. As you can see here, we have all of our same melodic patterns, but I also threw in this perk acting as a timpani as well as a crash to give a more cinematic effect. As well as that, I threw in a bunch of cinematic sound effects, including some impacts, risers, and whooshes. Honestly, if you need to find any kind of sounds like this, just look up free cinematic sample packs and you will find some great stuff. So with that being said, this is what the bridge sounds like. So now let's get into the craziest freaking part of the beat. This drop is by far my favorite drop that I've done in a Quadeca type beat, so I'm super stoked to break it down. First thing I threw in is that electric guitar sound from Omnisphere yet again, but I made some changes to the pattern. Next thing is that second electric guitar sound, but yet again I changed up the pattern. And after that, this is where it gets fun. You remember that melody earlier that I was saying you would see later on in the beat? Well, here it is, just in a different variation though. I've been playing a fast arpeggio, but it's still the same pattern and the same sound. So this is what it sounds like. And this fast-paced arpeggio is really going to contribute to the energy of this second drop. And the last melodic aspect that I have down are those vocals yet again, except I threw a bunch of distortion on them. And that's all there is as far as the melody, so let's go into the drums. First thing I threw down was this insane 808 pattern. And yet again, having this 808 and that arpeggio being super chaotic really just brings up the energy of this second drop. After that, I threw down this kick to match the 808. I threw down this snare roll, as well as this classic hyperpop snare. Now, as for the rest of the drums, there isn't really much that I need to go over because I want to keep this video as short as it can be, but I do want to throw in this fill because this makes this second drop shine. Something as simple as that can really be a game changer when it comes to beats like this. And along with all of that, I have a volume automation clip cutting out the beat when that timpani hits. But mind you, that is just the first part of the drop. For the second part of the drop, I bring back that old melody and combine it with the new version of the old melody so that it would sound like this. So with that being said, this is what the second drop sounds like altogether. Also, just want to say, if you're still watching at this point, you are a true GOAT. I already know this is probably at like the 17-minute mark or something crazy like that. So thank you for watching for this long. So for the second portion, I go into a kind of orchestral kind of breakdown where I bring back the original melodies just with different sound selection. So the first thing that I threw down was this piano. Next, I grabbed this pad from Omnisphere and I threw some distortion on it and mimicked the piano pattern. And for this next section, I introduced this lead violin. And after that is where things really start to pick up with this spiccato violin. And if you've noticed, this is that same melody that's playing throughout the entire beat, so it's making a resurgence here as well. And after that little build-up section is where it really drops. First thing I threw down was this instance of addictive keys playing some low notes as well as that previous melody yet again. Next, I threw down these strings from BBC Symphonic Orchestra to kind of fill out the mix a little bit. And after that, I threw on these impacts from Arcade. As well as some crashes and timpani hits, but you've already heard those before. So with all of that together, this is what the entire last portion of the beat sounds like. So finally, that is going to pretty much cover how to make an evil Quadeca type beat. Hopefully you enjoyed the tutorial and learned something new. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them. Also consider subscribing as I post 4 tutorials every single week, 2 long ones and 2 short ones. Thank you for sticking in this tutorial for so long if you're watching at this point. And other than that, it's going to be it. Peace.